About 80% of the global population without electricity live on a single continent.
Satellite imagery of African cities compared to satellite imagery of Western cities at night. You can see the darkness versus the light.
This lack of power matters. Electricity consumption and GDP growth are closely linked. In fact, virtually every wealthy nation on the planet uses power abundantly. And this isn't just about keeping the lights on, it's about economic independence.
Electricity is a fundamental right. Without that, you can't have health, education, anything delivered.
It also holds back industrialization.
Pretty much any other country in the history of the world, the way they got rich is via industrialization.
And mass production with its assembly lines.
That all happened because they had power of one sort or another.
And that's been true for everyone, from the UK to the US to more recently the likes of Singapore, Taiwan, and South Korea. But why isn't Africa, the continent with the most sunshine hours in the world, getting the energy it needs for its own industrial revolution? Finding the cash for vast energy projects is one thing.
The size of investment is a hurdle. It's huge.
A country needs 1,000 to 2,000 kilowatt hours of energy per person per year to take off. And in many African countries,
that number is at less than 200 kilowatt hours per person per year. So we're way off in terms of where we need to be.
To say Africa is energy poor is in many ways a mischaracterization. The continent is incredibly rich in natural resources.
The share of minerals globally, Africa is home to around 30%. If it comes to crude and gas in particular, we're looking around 10%. There's enormous potential on the hydropower side. Solar is also untapped.
There's also a substantial labor force.
1.5 billion people, median age in Africa is 19. This giant young workforce to power the future.
But despite its vast potential, Africa's lack of functioning energy infrastructure brings huge challenges for industry.
We are using some world-class inspection machine. Like as you can see there, body defect, all are rejected.
In places like Nigeria, the most populous country in Africa, there just isn't enough power being generated or distributed. Manufacturers have been forced to essentially abandon the grid.
Beta Glass, a top performer on Nigeria's stock exchange, which produces packaging for Budweiser, Coca-Cola and Heineken, has been forced to do just that.
Right, we cannot connect to national grid because frequently we are having power failure. Because of that, we are having different sorts of power backup,
including liquefied natural gas delivered by tanker and a solar power plant mounted on the roof. These backups are helping scale the business, but they're a luxury only a large company can afford. Across much of Africa, smaller firms are instead using these.
A country can't industrialize using diesel power generators because it's expensive. It's a very expensive option with which to operate factories, and it makes you uncompetitive.
It's just not sufficient to do mass industrialization, mass manufacturing. It's not the kind of thing that can power enough to generate the kind of jobs that the next billion Africans need.
The choice between unreliable energy or expensive energy is hampering African industry. The continent accounts for just 1% of global manufactured exports. But if energy access is so crucial for industrialization, why isn't more being done to fix the problem?
Investment is an issue. It's got huge sunk costs and long payment schedules.
Other factors are political risk and corruption. These are major inhibitors for investment because it's tough to get past Western compliance rules in order to invest.
Governance and political stability. If you're an investor and you're looking to invest in those countries and there's a change in administration, you're concerned whether the contract you signed would be adhered to.
This is a major issue when considering that most financing for energy projects comes from the commercial sector. On top of that, loans to African countries come with what many regard as unjustifiably high interest rates, far higher than countries with similar debt-to-GDP ratios.
Why should African countries borrow so expensive as compared to its peers in other parts of the world?
In spite of many of these hurdles, some African nations are still pressing ahead with massive power projects. And this 500-foot wall of reinforced concrete is one of the most ambitious, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam.
ኢትዮጵያ ህዳሴን የሰራችው ለመበልጸግ አካባቢውን በብርሃን ለመምራት የጥቁር ህዝብ ታሪክ ለመቀየር እንጂ በፍጹም ወንድሞቿን ለመጉዳት ስላልሆነ.
Construction began in 2011 and has been plagued by delays and strong opposition from Egypt, which sits downstream.
It's Africa's largest hydroelectric powered dam, so it's quite a huge achievement for the continent and Ethiopia in particular. Their plan is also to export to their neighbors.
Danya Bayeni and Abanesh Sefa are two of the over 60 million Ethiopians who live without power. They hope the dam will bring electricity to their home.
ያው ማብራት ቢኖር ያው ሳትጨናበስ ምን ሳትል ማለት ነው ይሰራል። እንጨት ራሱ ወይኔ አይነድልህም። በተለይ በቃ ይሄ ክረምት ውስጥ ደግሞ በጣም አስቸጋሪ ነው።
The couple even gave money to help fund the construction through a government program.
ይገንባ ግድቡ አባይ በሀገር ለ8100 ኤብሎ 3 ብር ስልኩ.
It made it into kind of like a nationalist project where people donated, people bought domestic bonds.
Civil servants were also encouraged to contribute, as well as the vast diaspora that Ethiopia has. It's something they're very proud of.
በወንድ ለመግዛት ለኛ ደስተኛ ነን። በግል ሲጠይቁን ምን ወደ ላይ ያለ ነገር የለም ገዝተናል። ገዘበትን ደግሞ ተሰርቶ ማለቁ ለኛ ደስተኛ ነን።
Funding energy infrastructure through crowdsourcing is just one way Africans are taking energy security into their own hands. Green technology is another. The continent has some of the best potential solar sites worldwide. And from Nigeria to South Africa and Morocco, solar panels are now being imported from China at a rapid rate.
There's actually a significant increase in the 12 months to June, amounted in total to around 15 gigawatts of solar panels that were imported, demonstrating the demand for power. Is it transformational? Absolutely, particularly for rural areas where national grids do not extend to.
At a step above that, governments are starting to partner with private companies to do mini grids. These are small power plants that could be renewable and will power, say, a neighborhood or an industrial estate.
And just introducing power to that agricultural rural community just helps in terms of the multiplier effect of allowing other businesses to emerge.
This is partly why the World Bank has launched an initiative to get power to 300 million Africans by 2030. The investment comes with a caveat. Countries must choose the lowest cost solutions, which are almost always renewable.
So we can connect 300, 600 million people into power in no time at all. We don't need to build cables, we don't need to have trucks to move diesel around, we just need to put it on their house and build it.
But some argue that the broader push to prioritise green energy by international institutions and policymakers has made it difficult for African countries to obtain funding for fossil fuel-based projects.
Il y a eu ce que j'ai appelé le fanatisme climatique.
This has irked many African leaders who want fuel, any fuel, to help lift their nations out of poverty.
Il faut donc que l'Afrique puisse continuer à exploiter ses ressources naturelles pour se développer, pour s'industrialiser.
When we consider what was agreed in Paris 2015, which was a restriction placed on future emissions, which African countries found unfair.
It's not going to bring a just transition to people around the world.
This idea that Western countries could get rich by burning fossil fuels, but Africa should learn from those mistakes, strikes a lot of people as condescending and hypocritical.
Solving Africa's energy insecurity may seem like the continent's problem, but the knock-on effects of an electrified Africa will be global.
If there are jobs in Africa, if there is hope for the future, you're far less likely to find young African citizens wanting to leave.
An energy-secure Africa would create a more secure world. We've got a massive group of young people, and yet there isn't a manufacturing sector that's available to absorb them.
Starting the workers being dominated by local employees means if I move to another factory, I take my experience to here in Africa. So I don't take it to other countries.
It's in the interest of everyone around the world that the last continent that hasn't gone through an industrial revolution does. The argument you'd hear from many African policymakers is whether it's through burning fossil fuels or through some kind of green energy transition, they don't think that matters as much as the fact that it needs to happen.